Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. As I was brainstorming for videos to film, I was thinking that it's been a while since I have told you guys about my book rating system. I know that I've done one at least once before, but I didn't see it in my recent videos. So I think it's been at least about a year since I've done one, and I thought why not go ahead and update you guys so that you guys can know when I'm rating a book 3 stars, when I'm rating a book 5 stars, what does that mean to me? So that's what we're doing today. Let me tell you about my book rating system. I think one of the first things to know about my book rating system, I always rate, or at least the majority of my book rating comes from how did it make me feel. I've seen a couple of Goodreads reviews where people will actually go and rate like certain technical writing aspects of a book. I don't do that. The book could be super poorly written, bad editing, whatever, but if it made me smile, if it was a good time while reading it, I'm probably going to rate it higher even though it may have all of these other technical writing mistakes. I'm just very big on how did this book make me feel. Another thing that I want to mention that's kind of related but kind of not, and I'm sure you've noticed through my book reviews, I have a very difficult time remembering what the book was about. I feel like I have the memory of a goldfish. I might have just finished the book yesterday, given it a 5 stars, it was wonderful, but if you ask me the next day to relate to you specific aspects of this book, I will most likely not remember. But you know what I can tell you? I can tell you what it made me feel. As I was reading it, I was super into it. At the end of it, I know I was devastated, but in the best of ways. So I think that's also why I rate a lot from the heart and how it made me feel, because I'm terrible at remembering exact details. First up, for a 5-star read. Now this is peak serotonin. Most likely I will be in a book hangover after reading this, and I know that it is going to be so difficult to follow up with a book that I actually want to read after reading this art piece of a book. When I rate a book 5 stars, it is most likely I cannot stop thinking about this book. I am looking up fan art. Is there movie, TV, news at all? I am 100% going to be rereading this book, and I am going to be fighting the urge to reread it in that moment as soon as I have finished it. An example of this is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. It is my absolute favorite book ever. I reread that book at least once a year. There was a year where I reread it 3 times. Every time I reread this book, it is almost like rereading it for the first time. That will always be my example of a 5-star read because I cannot think of a more perfect example. It still makes me laugh, even though I know when the joke is coming, it still makes me laugh. It makes me smile. I love that book, and that is what a 5-star read is for me. And of course, our runner-up, 4 stars. Now this is a book that I really enjoyed, but it lacked some oomph to really make it memorable for me. This is a book that was a pleasant read. It was entertaining, but I most likely won't reread anytime soon, but I wouldn't mind rereading it if I had to, for example, for like a buddy read or a readathon or anything like that. I wouldn't mind rereading it. It just won't be my first choice. 4 stars is still a really good book. I will have very little to no complaints, but it's just missing that star factor to make it a 5-star read. An example of a 4-star read that I have recently read is King of Wrath by Anna Wong. This is a billionaire romance. It's the first book in her Kings of Sin series. This was a book that I really enjoyed. I have very little complaints. It was just missing that little bit of something for me. I thought this was a very spicy but elegant book. It was right up my alley. I would still recommend it. I don't think I would mind rereading it. I read it as a physical book. I've heard the audiobook is really great, so I'm waiting to find some kind of platform where I can listen to that. And now for my meh reads, my average reads, my 3-star reads. This was a book that helped me pass the time, but it really wasn't anything special. I don't have any extreme feelings towards it either way, good or bad. It was just all right. It helped pass the time. 3-star reads are maybe books that were promising but just didn't quite live up to its potential. Maybe it wasn't my cup of tea. Overall, my 3 stars are just very average. A lot of my books, I feel like I do rate 3 stars because I find it very difficult to rate them anything lower than a 3 stars, but I am trying to fix that because I know it's not always always the most accurate representation of how I felt towards a book. But yeah, my 3 stars is just kind of a catch-all. It could be more of a positive 3 stars. It may be more of a negative 3 stars. Now for my 3-star reads, keeping along the same Anna Wong series, I have Kings of Greed, which is the 3rd book in her Kings of Sin series. This was on the lower spectrum of a 3 stars. I was reading it and it was helping me pass the time, but maybe there were pockets of boredom for me in there. I think it was more the trope, the marriage in crisis trope. I don't think that's something that I enjoy, or even second chance romances I don't like, which is very odd because me and my husband are a second chance romance. So I wonder why I don't like that. The characters didn't really speak to me. I didn't really connect with them. Kings of Wrath, I am planning on purchasing. I liked it that much that I do want to have it on my bookshelf and I want to purchase it. King of Greed, I don't want it. You can keep it. And then on the higher end of the 3-star spectrums is King of Pride, the 2nd book in Anna Wong's Kings of Sin series. This is higher on the 3-star spectrum because I did enjoy it. There was just a disconnect between the main character Isabel. She wasn't my favorite. I wasn't a fan of her actions, but the love interest Kai, I liked him. I really did. I actually rated this a 3.5 stars because I did enjoy a lot of the aspects. There was just a disconnect and it wasn't my favorite compared to Kings of Wrath. So now for my 2 and 1 star ratings. Like I mentioned, I have very few books that I have rated 2 and 1 stars because I find it very difficult to do so. I'm such a people pleaser and such a nice person, I would say, that I don't like to say anything negative about anything, even a book, even though I know, like, this is just my opinion. I'm sure someone out there enjoy it. I just find it very difficult. I really don't like to do it, and I won't unless I have a visceral angry reaction against it. I don't want to throw a 2 or 1 star out there if I don't mean it. So I hope that you know that when I am rating a book, if it's a 2 or a 1 star, I really was not having a good time with it. So first up are 2 stars. This was no bueno. This was a book that I really struggled to get through. I was most likely leaning towards a DNF. I'm going to have a lot of complaints. I respect all books. I know authors probably went into it with the best of intentions, wanting to make it the best. It just didn't work out for me personally. I may still be able to find like a very tiny aspect that I liked, or just a general positive thing about the book that was not terrible, but I'm still going to be very cranky towards this book. I'm going to be side-eyeing it. I'm going to have a grudge because I could have been reading so much better books than this 2-star. So a 2-star read that sticks out in my mind is The Deep by Nick Cutter, and this was such a disappointing 2 stars. I thought this was going to be an undersea horror novel. We're in the Mariana Trench. It is going to just give me all the heebie-jeebies. I'm going to be scared, and it was just not that. I was expecting a lot of physical horror. This was a descent into madness, and while there was a lot of gore and body horror, I just needed a physical, like, creepy scary thing, not everything being in my mind due to psychosis. You know what I'm saying? The ending was not it at all. I was very unsatisfied with the ending. Overall, it just wasn't what I was wanting, and I had a really bad time. I remember reading The Deep and I kept wanting to put it down, and I'm not going to lie, I was skimming through a lot of it because I was just bored. This isn't what I want to read. For our 1-star reads, this is the bottom of the barrel. This was the worst of the worst. Why the heck did I read this? I will not have any nice things to say about this book. And like I said, I respect all books. I respect the work that the author put into it. We're not going to be tagging the author in this review because it is not going to be pleasant. And just a friendly reminder, do not tag authors in negative reviews, okay? Let's not do that. Your opinion is your opinion, and that's great, but let's not tag the author in this, okay? Finishing this book will have been a Herculean task because I will have been wanting to put down this book at every second of the way. I was looking through my Goodreads history. I have only ever given 2 books a 1 star. That is how conservative I am with my 1 stars. But one book that was a 1 star was Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. H.D. Carlton is the author of the Haunting Adeline duology, which I loved. I loved the first book more than I did the second book, but nonetheless, I enjoyed it. It was a good time. I think I rated them 4 and 3 stars respectively. This was garbage. This was so bad. I can't think of a single positive thing. Even the spicier parts of this book, I was skimming through them. I had 0 interest. I could not care less. I was so bored. I was just trying to get through the book. With this being set on like an island with a lighthouse, kind of being isolated and stranded on this little lighthouse island, I thought I would be more interested in it because it's mixing, you know, some mystery and thriller with spiciness. Like, I just thought that was a recipe for greatness. Main character and her love interest just sucked. I could not believe there was any chemistry between them whatsoever. This one I really considered DNFing. No, it's probably not the closest. The other one-star read was the closest I ever came to DNFing a book, but this was a pretty close second. And that is how I rate my books and some examples of those ratings. Like I said, I'm trying really hard to be more honest with my ratings. Not to say that I was lying about how I felt about a book, but I definitely tried to sugarcoat them maybe a little bit more because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, which I feel like is a little bit ridiculous because, for example, on Goodreads, that's what that platform is for rating and reviewing and giving your honest opinions so other people can figure out whether that's a book that they like or don't like. So I am going to be more honest in terms of my negative reviews. That's it to this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. My name is Elle, and I will see you next week for a new video.